You are listening to the Gritty Podcast, where we talk about all things gritty. Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I am your host, Brian Call. I'm joined by Brad Hunt. Today's guest is Brian Barney.
Yeah.
From Eastman'S Elevated Podcast. Just all around awesome guy. You probably, if you're into bow hunting and Western hunting, you ought to know who Brian is by now. And if you haven't tuned into his podcast, you need to. Extremely motivating guy. Just an incredible hunter. Inspiring to follow. I put him and Ryan Lampers up there as some of the best hunters I know.
Absolutely.
Phenomenal individual. Super positive. Just salt to the earth man. He's on the podcast with us. We talk a little bit about my uncle's buck in the kaibab, that giant, because he held it in his hands.
I have a photo of Brian Barney. He's like smiling, holding this buck.
He's like, this is what dreams are made of, for a mule deer hunter. So cool buck, cool conversation. We pretty much I just had a lot of questions for Brian. I just wanted to hang out and talk. So it's just a great conversation. And picked his brain a little bit. Just had a great talk about hunting and life. It's a great show. And anyway, I hope you like it. Leave us a comment if you do. Like and subscribe to the channel as always. We appreciate all that. We try to respond to all the comments you leave on our YouTube channel, and really stay engaged there. So if you have something to say to us or you have a question, drop it in the comment section. We'll do our best to get back to you. If you want to support the show, check out Sheep Feet. They are a good partner of ours. When you use the code GRITTY over there, they'll ship you a box where you can get a custom orthotic imprint of your foot, and then mail it back to them, and they will send you back a custom orthotic that you can throw into your boots or your running shoes or any of that stuff. We've been using them for years now. Life without them sucked. Now that I know what I was missing, it's a great product. Everyone I know that's ever gotten one has had nothing but rave comments and reviews, and appreciate the improvement that they provide to your hiking all days in the woods. No more foot cramping, all that kind of stuff. So check out Sheep Feet. And Brad, what was the other one?
Treeline.
Treeline. Yeah, we wanted to promote Treeline Academy on this podcast. If you haven't downloaded Mark's e-scouting course, you need to check that out. It's worth every penny. It's about 40 hours of instruction on how to find elk, how to use maps, digital maps, how to use Google Earth. He has all sorts of add-ins as well to really leverage Google Earth in a way like you have never seen before. Yeah. It will change your life. It is such a life, you're the same person you are now, except for the books you read, the people you meet, and the places you go, and the experiences you have. This is one of those sort of classes that will change how you view hunting from now on. It will completely change your ability to find animals.
And not just for elk either. I mean, in hunting as a whole package.
Yeah, it's an elk-specific class, but the mapping section is, and some of the habitat kind of information and zones of pressure, and all the discussions on that, the fitness, all of that is applicable to all hunting. So it's still worth it, even if you're not an elk hunter, if you are a Western hunter. If you're hunting an ag field for whitetails, it probably isn't ideal for you. You probably want to watch a different film. But this one, if you are coming out west or going up north or any of that kind of stuff, it's the class for you. So check it out. Use the code GRITTY over at Treeline Academy. Download that e-scouting course. And there are others in the pipeline.
Yeah, he's got the new toolkits, which are broke up by states, and you can import those layers for each state through Google Earth, and you break it all down. It's pretty cool.
So check that out. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Give Brian Barney a follow. Check him out. Eastman Elevated Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. And as always, stay gritty. All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Call, and today my guest is Brian Barney, and we are at the Western Hunt Expo having a good time. And I'm glad you made some time to come on over. Man. Sit down. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks so much. Man, we always have the best conversation. So
we do.
It's always good when we can hit record. So it's good we didn't talk too much.
Yes.
We talked a little bit, said hi, and you pressed record. So here we are.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you were just introduced to my Uncle Kevin.
Yes.
And he showed you the buck he took this year off the kaibab, 222-inch mule deer, just mass like crazy. The chocolate horns, because it's in a burn, just amazing.
What a buck. Oh, you talk about a dream buck. To hold a buck like that, the bladed tines, the extras, dark horns, and the mass, and I've to hold a 220-inch buck, and it's not even the score that's that impressive to me. It's just the buck itself, man. That's what dreams are made of. And those things are out there too. I have chased some giant bucks over the years. They're not easy to kill. They're not easy to find, but there are bucks like that out there, proven by your uncle. What a buck.
I kind of was under the assumption that a whole bunch of people knew about this buck and everybody was going after it, sort of like the Wasatch Front would be,
Yep.
Seems like if they're there, everybody knows it's there and everybody's trying to get it. And he's like, nobody was there. We had never seen it before. They outfit in the Kaibab for 18 years or something like that. And it's just cool to know that there was a buck out there sleeping somewhere, and who knows how many people might have known it was in there. But it was there, and he's like looking at it, and he thought it was maybe breaking 200 because he could only see it through the trees, and he says he shot it, and to his surprise, it was way bigger than he even thought.
What a buck to walk up on, right? What a buck to have ground growage on. But, that place, the deal is there are bucks like that, and there's locations like the Strip where they come into water, where they're able to put cameras and know that those bucks are in there. Right. And then there's places like the Wasatch where you have this population where people glass and work hard and get trail cameras set up and know that those bucks exist. And then there's places like the Kaibab and other units, and these deer, they can blow up 20 inches, 30 inches in a year. So maybe a 180-inch buck is all of a sudden 210.
Exactly.
But a place like that, it's thicker and it's roaded country, and those bucks, they can just grow up in that stuff and never get seen by a human.
He said it was just in juniper thickets and just tight, and you can only get glimpses. It's really thick. It's not open. So it's not inconceivable that buck got old by just never leaving cover and staying holding tight in a certain area. And he mentioned he's kind of in a transition area because it was early season Kaibab, because he's always trying to get that easier tag to get. But, he's had a goal of breaking 200 inches his whole life. So his biggest buck was when he was like 17, and it was like 198 inches. It was like this close. And ever since then, he's shot a bunch of 190s and some 180s and smaller, and he's just been wanting that giant, and then this just blew up, and he's just like so thrilled with the a lifelong kind of pursuit,
Rightfully so. Absolute dream buck, and good for him, a guy that earned it. And, killing big deer, like sometimes I feel like it's getting lucky to kill this next level elk or next level buck, one that goes 200 inches or 390 plus or whatever the score is that's a giant one. But in the same breath, it's about building your skill set and your knowledge base. It's about really working hard on all the different facets that go into learning new areas, to exploring, to then hunting those areas, and then glassing techniques, and then even tracking, seeing a big track, or still hunting locations where bucks live in timber where you can't glass. Like all these skill sets come into play. So your uncle built a lifetime of skills of hunting and knowing mule deer, killing some really big ones, and then it came together this season killing a giant, and it's due to those skill sets and then creating one of those opportunities and then being clutch or really good in the moment, seizing that opportunity. But that's what I think killing big stuff is.
Yeah, it's funny, as a little kid, I always wanted to go to his house because there's just taxidermy and giant deer and animals I'd never seen before, and I just get there and I just ooh and ah in the house and walk around, and I see all these pictures of just all these hunts, and in his office he had like all these photos like by the year, and all these like kind of trophy shots just on frames, and there were just hundreds of them, and you could just go back year over year over year over year with his dad or his brother or his friends or whatever, and the whole room was just like a lifetime of a hunting pursuit, a deep passion for hunting. And I always wanted to visit, and then we would go on some hunts, and I one of my first big bulls I took archery was with him in Arizona, just a pretty simple draw tag, and Ben and Anthony and I went up there and called in a bull, and we had so many bulls that we passed on. I'd never hunted elk in such a tremendously good area, and he's like, that's the worst unit in the state, and he turned his nose down at all the stuff, but for me it was spectacular. For me it was like, there's 330-inch bulls on every call-in. You know, I'm like, and I didn't last very long before I pulled the trigger on one of them. I'm like, there's bigger bulls. And it's funny, I ran into Russ Meyer there too, and Russ shot 350-inch 5x5.
Oh my gosh, what a dream bull.
It was ridiculous. So that was really neat. But yeah, I grew up with him kind of really. He took me on my first bear hunt to Prince of Wales Island, and it was 2007. And he's like, hey, we're going to this place. We're going to hunt bears. And I actually hadn't really hunted bears, you know. And so I went there, and I've hunted bears every year since. And now I'm just like, bear hunting I'm addicted to bear. And Lampers and I, it's funny. All these people are coming up to us at the show, and we really appreciate it. And they say hi, and they thank us for the productions and, you know, what we've helped them get out and go hunt. But it's like 8-to-1 are bear hunters,
really,
that come to us, and it's just a lot of people. We've definitely cultivated a bear community around our stuff and what we do in the springtime. So,
what an experience for you to have your uncle take you on these wild adventures and to have this knowledge and to share it with you in Arizona, to see the best elk hunting you've ever seen, and to go chase bears. You say Prince of Wales? Yeah, Prince of Wales and chase bears. Like, for a young man to go on an adventure, like, he's kind of the one that planted the seed about adventure, and to walk through his house, look at the photos and look at the mounts. That's how you want to front load your life. That's what you want to do, is you want to live as many of these adventures as you can. And really, I can only plan the next year out, maybe 2 years out at the most. But the goal is to plan as many of these adventures for this passion and this thing we love to do, and go experience it. Go immerse yourself in the bear woods in different states and Alaska and these different places, you know, and front load with great elk hunting and mule deer hunting, and really try to do as much of what we love to do while we're here on planet Earth as we can. Yeah. But really, you look back over the years and they start to stack up, where it's like, man, I'm living an adventurous life. I'm going on some wild adventures, you know?
I really, you know, Mountain Ops asked me to share some video. I didn't know what. They just said, bring some video, 7 minutes, 8 minutes, something like that, and share some stuff and just answer some questions. We're going to have an audience here and just do a little Q&A. So I went up on that stage, and I was talking to Lampers beforehand. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And then I thought, and I was looking at some old teasers from different series I've dropped. And I was like, hey, where's my teaser file? And I grabbed all the teasers and I put them into one timeline. And then I exported that file, and it's like 8 minutes of just highlight clips and music of stuff from like the last 5 years. And I was watching it with Ryan today after I showed it over there. And we're both looking at it, and it's bringing back some memories, because some of this is old for us. Some of it's brand new, like the moose stuff in Alaska. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, we're both hit with this. We've done some things. We've accomplished some stuff. We've been some places. We've had those adventures. And it's like, I take it for granted, and it was nice to sort of take a minute and soak in the past and relive some of those memories and just look at it. We watched it 3 or 4 times, like 30-minute. It's an 8-minute clip. We watched like 3 times, you know. It's just like, yeah, life is, I think we need adventure. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, I feel good. I feel like, you know, I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the next thing, you know. And speaking of this season and adventure, what was your top, like this season, 2022, it's wrapped up, the hunt that stands out for you, the most special? They're all good, but what's that one for you this year?
Yeah, like you say, they're all special. It's so tough for me to choose because they all had highlights. I love the early season mule deer, you know, above 10,000 and arrowed a great buck up in there. I mean, killed a great bull, had some of the best elk hunting, really nice 6-point, like captured that. And then I'd have to say the highlight for me was drawing a Shiras moose tag. And so I've waited 22 years for this tag, 21 points to draw this tag. Wow. I've never harvested a moose. I've hunted Alaskan Yukon. I've been on some adventures up there, did a big 100-mile float, tried to kill one with my bow up there, learned a ton, and I just need to go back and use that knowledge in that same area, because we did see 10 bulls, had a great experience. And so I've never killed a moose, and this year I drew a Shiras, and knowing that this is probably my one chance in life to kill a Shiras moose. And I've been seeing Shiras moose around Montana for the last 20 years hunting. And I've hunted this mountain range. I drew one of my home ranges. So I've hunted this range a bunch, but I've never been able to look at it like through the lens of hunting a moose, like thinking
Going
about
for a
it.
moose.
Yes. And they're so spread out, but it's a mountain hunt, and they have really good potential in there. And so spent time scouting in there, really learning drainages, trying to remember every place I had seen a bull moose over the last 20 years, trying to mark it on my map, trying to visit with guys that spend time in that country and mark spots on a map. But it was like a puncher getting hit in the mouth. But when I started, like I went the first 7 days, and, I don't really know the rut of the moose, and so I'm starting September 15th. And I'm thinking I'm going to see some pre-rut action, even though I know the peak's towards October 1st, a little bit later. And so went into it. I started hunting some spots that I had scouted. I hadn't found a big bull during scouting, but you can glass this range and grab master vantage points. And so I started hunting, but 7 days, the first 7 days, I didn't see a moose. I didn't see a cow. I didn't see a bull. And
did you get worried, or were you like, keep it? You're kind of like, well, this doesn't mean anything. I'm going to keep going.
At times, I would get worried. So I found myself, it was like a joke between me and my buddies. So they were hunting elk. I was hunting moose. And I started joking around about what a crappy moose hunter I am, because I didn't kill one in Alaska, and I didn't kill one. I can't even find one in Montana. In the meantime, guys will run into moose. And so one of my hunting buddies, he's like, I saw a big bull right in here. Now I'll go look for that bull for 2-3 days, and it's like looking for a vapor trail. Never look for a moose where somebody's seen him, because there's somewhere else. But anyways, I started joking around that I was a crappy moose hunter. But, you are your self-talk. And so then I say it around my friends to get a laugh, but then I'm by myself, and then I'm saying, you're a crappy moose hunter. And I had to sit down and have a talk with myself, and I say, I know you haven't found a big bull yet, but you're a good bow hunter. You're applying your skills. And it was a combination of, their numbers aren't condensed in the bottoms, or you can't hunt any of the river bottoms. And so you're hunting the mountain bulls. And so it's a combination of driving roads, combination of master vantage points, combination of still hunting, but they're so spread out throughout the country. And then, I want a bull that's a good representation of a Shiras. Now, it doesn't have to break the record book, but it's got to have some paddles and some points and something that'll get me excited, especially if I'm going to pack 1,000 or 1,200 pounds off the mountain. And so I was really looking for a good bull, and saw a lot of smaller bulls. I ended up seeing 40 moose in the end. I hunted 30 days for them. Finally caught up with a good bull. And it was, my limit was a mile from the road, because I'm going to be by myself packing a lot of this. Might be able to get a buddy, maybe not. And I know how heavy they are. So a mile from the road. So, of course, the last day I'm 2 miles from the road, and I'm about ready to turn around, about hit my limit, and I'm like, okay, I'm a couple miles. I'm farther than I should be. And I kind of climb up this little vantage point, look down in this bottom, and I spot a cow, and I go, another cow. Okay, right? And then, I catch another one. Maybe that's the bull. And I look, and it's a smaller bull. It's chasing that cow, and they're kind of still rutting. It's in October. There's 1.5 feet of snow, and I'm just still hunting this bottom. I had scouted and seen a bunch of tracks in there. And so I thought, I'll climb up to the top here, and I'll head back. And cool, I saw another moose, 38 and 39, seeing some good moose, and so climb to the top and look down there, and then I see a big bull down there, and he's got paddles. And moose aren't known for being the spookiest animal, because for me it's bow or nothing. Like, I love getting close, and they're not known as being the spookiest animals, but most of them you can walk up and they pay no attention to you. But when you finally find a shooter bull after 30 days of looking, the last thing I want to do is spook that bull out of that zip code. I finally found one. So I had to stalk him like he was an antelope. And so this stalk, it lasted an hour and a half through this willow-soaked bottom, creek bottom, soaking wet, freezing cold, sneaking up and having that bull on the outside of my range and the cow at 30 yards and just having to freeze every time they picked up their heads. And then, being patient, waiting for the right opportunity. And then I finally got him into range, a little bit quartered towards me where I just didn't like the angle, and wait. And he's actually sparring with the other bull a bit. It's almost post-rut, and so they're not real angry trying to kill each other, but sparring around. Finally gave me the angle, put one through his lungs, could see the cold air like coming out of his lungs every breath he took. And he went about 20 yards and stopped again, and I put another one through the other side of him, and then I had breath coming out both sides, and he was alive for maybe 15 seconds after the first arrow and died right there. So I'd have to say that was the highlight of my season.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
How close were you to the end of the season?
I was getting down towards the end. So I had till the end of November, and this is late October, so I've got another month. But the wrench in the deal is I had sold my house, and I had to move out in November. And so I had this huge move to make to a rental before I could get in my full-time house. So I knew November, at least a couple weeks in there, were going to be burned trying to get the house clean, trying to get everything done.
And also, the later it gets, the worse the weather could be, and you may not be able to get easily into an area where they're at, and you could get weathered out.
It was getting tough. The rut was winding down, so I had hunted the rut really hard, but I had burned my days off, and I had to move in November. I mean, I would have made it happen no matter what, but I was running out of time.
I hunted moose with a bow in British Columbia, basically, with Dustin Rowe, Tanis, and Doran.
Oh, wow.
And that crew from
what
BC,
a couple guys to go hunt with.
And it was fun. It was so hilarious. Tanis and Doran are characters, and we had such a good time. And I was in bow range on bulls like 3 times, real close, super close. So it's still a bucket list item for me. I had a cameraman over the shoulder, and he didn't have the years of hunting experience. It's still pretty new. And then I made some mistakes too. And so it ended up not happening. There were multiple times where you got the cow at 30 yards and the bull at 40 yards, but he's just laying down. You see him to stand up. And I got 3 cows. And you're just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And you're kind of in that spot. The wind is good. Twice the wind just switched. You're that close. It was kind of flat country. Sun was kind of coming out, and the thermals and the wind and the heat, and it just drifted. And as soon as it drifted, he was up and running, and he would not stop. And that happened a couple times, and that was just like, man, that sucked. But it's still one of those trips that I need to do. We talked about doing a bow on this last trip that we did, and Ryan had never shot a moose before. And he's like, I just want to make sure I get one. I want all that meat, and I want those big horns. So we went down there. So I've been on a number of moose hunts now, and I feel like I've got to finish that bucket list item with the bow. Do it with the bow.
You're a crappy moose hunter too.
I know.
No, I'm just kidding you. I'm totally kidding.
So close. And but Ryan's addicted.
Yeah.
Lampers is addicted. Now that he's killed a moose.
You guys had a wild adventure. I can see why.
We're going to do it again.
Yeah.
In fact, Ryan's like, I'm done with elk. I'm doing it every year. I'm doing moose every year, one way or another. I'm like, I don't know if I'm that moose dedicated, but looks like we're going to get ourselves down there.
Well, that's the deal with the bow and arrow, which you've learned and gained a ton of experience hunting with a bow, is that you're on this hunt and you think you just need to get in range and you can kill a bull, a buck, moose, whatever it is, right? Yep. I just need to get in range. Like, that's the goal, and that's so difficult to find the animal and get into range. But then you start getting into range of animals, and you realize that getting into range is only half the battle, and by no way guarantees you're going to get a shot, get a kill, anything. Like, that's half the battle.
Especially up north where it was just willow brush.
Oh, yeah.
It was like, man, I got a bull 15 yards, but I have no shot.
Yes.
And it was a lot of that. And Green Tree did a great job. They called the bull in. He just, walked right in, and, he smoked it at 20 yards or something, 18 yards. That's what I wanted. You know, you envision like the bull going, whoa, whoa, and comes in and comes right up to you and you shoot him at point blank range. That's kind of what I envisioned the first time I went with a bow. We couldn't get them to budge. You know, they were settled in with 2 or 3 cows. So it turned into a spot and stock. And all it was spot and stock over and over again and forcing that, you know, that deal. And each time, man, it was just should have happened. It was that close. But
100 right decisions.
I loved it. I enjoyed it. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about, thinking on the conversation we just had, I'll lay the stage. I have a couple of comments I'm going to leave, and I'm going to ask you a question. So my Uncle Kevin, you just saw that muley buck he took, right? He is out there a lot. He's been on some great hunts, okay? He had a 190-something inch buck, upper 190s buck that he passed on that Kaibab hunt, hoping for something better when he shot this other buck, right? But he's like, on the podcast, he's like, Brian, I'm just notorious for shooting something great. Like, I'm just notorious also for thinking it's bigger than it really was. You know, I have a lot of ground shrinkage in my my lifetime, right? So keep that thought in mind, right? And I think that my uncle could have taken a lot of bucks throughout his lifetime in the category or close to what he was wanting, but a lot of times the patience got overrun, right? Because there's something great right now, and that's good enough. When I was in Mexico with Ryan this last couple weeks, and I've hunted with him now so much, and we both are notorious for this. I'm bad too. We see something that's really nice. It's not Megasaurus nice. It's not 200 inches, but it's 180. And we're both like, is he big enough? Is he big? Day 2, day 1, day 4. Is he big enough? Is he big enough? You know. And I have passed. I have 3 pictures of bucks at home now that I just printed out and just stuck on the wall. These are 3 deer that I passed that I wish I had never passed on. But at the same time, if I had run into something bigger on that trip, I would have been able to get those deer. That deer, whatever that one was, right? It just didn't happen. You can't get the Megasaurus, the 222-inch deer, if you shoot the 190-inch deer, right? And it's all dependent on your goal, right? We're up there trying to get a coos, and we both want smashers. We want stompers. We want giants. And, we come off of that hunt, and Jay Scott's like, dude, you guys shot like – we both shot – spoiler alert, we shot some great coos deer. And – Jay Scott, he just hooked us up with the right ranch to go to. So then it was DIY after that. He helped us get into the country and not get a shakedown, and so keep our money in our weapons. He's like, you guys did something special. You shot like a 230-inch mule deer with these 2 bucks. Like, they're special. So that felt great. You know how many bucks we could have killed throughout that week that were nice coos deer that everybody else would have been happy with, but we didn't. And Ryan and I both pass on stuff often to get something bigger, and then we don't get anything. And like I said, I look back on some of these bucks, and they're bona fide mistakes, okay? I just didn't realize how special that animal was when I was looking at it. Some of that's 4K, enhanced, zoomed in, color graded. Oh, it has 4 drops in the stick. I didn't see that in the scope far away. Things like that where we pass. It's an uninformed decision in a way. But the opposite is also true. We're over this canyon. We're looking down, and this coos deer buck. I see this buck. I'm like, Ryan, he looks big to me. He looks big to me. We watched that thing for 20 minutes, and Ryan's like, is it? I can't tell. I think it is. I don't know if it is. On his moose film. That moose is giant. And he's like, I think it's legal. Like, yes, it's legal. Shoot the thing. And he's like, I don't know if it's big enough. It's big enough. He passed on the first one, and he's a monster. And he passed on the second one for a while, and it's bigger. And he finally took it. Finally, on the coos deer, he realizes, we go home, we look at it on the computer, we realize how big it is, and he takes it. Opposite was true. Brad was up there, and he kind of shot something that he was hoping would be bigger. But the difference there is, Ryan and I were both willing to not shoot a deer at all waited a day or two. I killed mine 4 days after the first time I saw it, and Ryan killed his 2 days after. We went home, looked at it all, and we're like, oh yeah, that's big. Because you can make that other error where you think it's bigger than it is. Mm-hmm. But once you go for it, you're done. Mm-hmm. It's over. You're talking about this moose hunt and how long you waited to kill a moose. And the chances of you maybe not getting a moose. Archery's hard enough as it is. But then you put upon yourself, hey, I want a representative moose. I don't want just a moose. I want a great moose. What kind of conversation do you have? What is it that enables you to keep going and get that big one instead of taking something else? I'm sure you saw some nice moose before that, mm-hmm. but you let them go. Like how? What is it that guys are out there listening and they're like, hey, I want to set a higher challenge for myself, but then every time I do, when that 4x4 bull comes in, I can't help but shoot it, so I never get that 6x6. What's your take on all that?
Yeah, well, it's different on a moose because I had never killed one, but I get an idea in my head of what's going to make me happy or what it's going to look like. And you're right, like you explained it perfectly, that you have to be okay with going home empty-handed. And I've just killed enough animals with my bow in my bow hunting career that I'm okay going home empty-handed and just going on this wild adventure. And it's still some of my favorite hunts are some of the ones that I'm unsuccessful on. And so I try to look at, what kind of opportunity. Like, it's tough. I've also made the error where I set my standards so high that I want to kill, just throwing numbers out, but like a 360 bull, right? Yeah. And I can go through the whole season and I want to kill it with my bow and arrow, and I may not see a 360 bull or get an opportunity, but I sit back on the hillside and I watch 320 or 330 bulls that I would be really happy with pass those bulls and go through the whole season and eat my tag. And so like it is this balance of just figuring out what's going to make you happy, like going on a hunt and being okay if you come home empty-handed, but just giving your all to that hunt. And now, there's hunts, like I love hunting mule deer, and there's hunts where a 5-6-year-old 160, 170-inch mule deer gets me really excited, and I'm going to go make a play because you don't kill a lot of 200-inch deer in eastern Montana.
Right.
And so for that, it's just age class and mass and a mature prairie mule deer that looks good to me, and I'm happy with that. So I don't go on these hunts with a standard of 200 inches or non-typical points every one I do. I try to match my expectations with the tag or the opportunity I have. And now if I'm going to Colorado, I know that I've got a chance at a 200-inch deer. Now, for me, I'm setting my standards really high, and I'm going to give my absolute all to find a deer like that. And if I don't kill a deer like that, I'm going to go home with my tag and know that I gave it my all. And so I really match my expectations to the hunt I'm doing. And so on the moose hunt, I knew a moose like that was possible. I knew I had the days. I knew I was going to keep after it until I found a moose like that, even if I just had to get really, really lucky. Like, even at pure luck, I'm going to run into one of those things eventually. And so I just, you have this confidence in your head that you're going to run into that animal. Even if you don't in the end, you believe that animal exists in that unit, and I'm going to give it my all and try to run into that one, and then that's what's going to make me happy.
It's interesting. Like you mentioned something about, you're thinking about what gets you excited. It's interesting because when I look at a coos deer, for example, I love those critters. I do
those
too.
Animals. I fell in love with hunting them. I got hooked on it.
Yeah, I'm hooked. And
great deer, by the way. That thing's amazing, man. That is a world-class coos.
It's incredible.
I saw a photo of, man, that is just that is unreal.
This was a buck that I had in range last year that I had within 40 yards.
The eye guards on that thing. Oh my gosh.
That was Arizona.
Yeah, that's a great buck.
We were on him 4 days in a row. We have a photograph we took too. Yeah, right there. And not the widest, but heavy mask. He's got way more mass here than you realize.
The only thing that fools you is he's inside his ears, so he doesn't have a big frame, but he's got the mass and the age and the eye guards and the tine length. Yeah, he's over 100 inches, which is a world-class coos. That's a trophy coos.
And so I sat there and I was in range. And my thing about it though is when I look at Coues deer, if they're not like that, they do zero for me. Zero. Like there's no. I'm not interested. It's like shooting a fawn. Mm-hmm. Like it doesn't trigger any kind of response in my soul.
You're on to something.
Like I'm like, yeah, they're not going to happen. I feel nothing.
Yep. A spindly young deer does nothing for me. I don't care how long his tines or what he scores. I can just tell it's a young 3-year-old deer, and that doesn't get me excited.
It did when I was young.
Oh, yeah,
It just doesn't now.
Yeah. Well, and that's the deal, too, is you almost got to work your way up the trophy rungs of the ladder. You almost have to shoot an animal of that size before you can pass an animal of that size. If you jump that ladder too quick, you maybe didn't build the skill set to be able to get the opportunities at that size animal. And so I really think it's part of like building your skill set and getting to a place where you're undeniable. You know, Ryan is so good at hunting. He has worked at his craft tirelessly. He spent so much time in the woods, and he's in great shape, great shooting. He's effective. Same thing with you. You spent so much time perfecting the art of hunting. And so once you can build your skill set to that point, you can set your standards higher. You know, you can set these higher goals. And so for me, it's continue to work on my skill set. But when I show up on a hunt, like I show up almost feeling undeniable. I know I've put in the work and the training. It doesn't matter if it's a general season, an easy to draw tag. I know those opportunities are available, and I'm going to go grind it until I kill one of those animals. And so I have this inner belief in myself, you know, that I can turn up those size critters. But it does take like working your way up the trophy rungs of the ladder, working on your entire hunting skill set, and that includes new species and new habitats like your moose, like your Coues deer. The more places you hunt, the better you get. And the more new places you go that you figure out gives you confidence to go to new places and figure those out. And so then you can start setting your standards higher. And so I think you just set a goal with an animal you're happy at, and that maybe that's a 4-point buck. Maybe that's a 6-point bull. And then once you kill an animal of that size, then you can start to grow from there and go, okay, well, I was clutch in that moment. I capitalized on that opportunity. I made my shot like I was supposed to. You know, next year, I think I can set my sights a little bit higher. Yeah, I think I can find that 4-year-old buck that's going to go 160 inches, you know, something that I'm really happy with. So that's been my progression into trophy hunting.
That's interesting, too, because for me on the Coues deer thing, it's like, and it's probably a function of how good the hunting is in Arizona, actually. Like, over-the-counter Coues deer, I could find Boone and Crockett Coues deer 3, 4, sometimes 8 of them in 1 year. Ryan and I both.
Combination, though, you're so effective, and you've hunted Coues deer enough and know how to travel country good behind your glass, because you really got to be good glassing those things. They're the gray ghosts for a reason, you know, but you've perfected the art of hunting Coues, and then you've been able to find good Coues spots. It's the combination of.
Yeah, and so when I look at those, I go, I am so obsessed and so excited and so driven and so motivated to go for that caliber. But, you know, when it comes to mule deer, I have a totally different attitude. Like 150 or 60-inch buck with my bow, I am so stoked. Like, I am so, like, it doesn't need to be, like, 140-inch. I'm probably going, you know, and I was talking to Ryan about that because I have a hunt that I'm going to go on with Pedro Ampuero. You know Pedro.
I really like that guy.
Pedro's a stud. He's awesome. We're going to go do a bow hunt for mule deer late season. And I'm like, okay, what can we expect? Well, the age class isn't what it used to be. The population's struggling a little bit, you know. Lots of 150s. I'm like, sweet. Lampers is like, man, are you sure? And we get on the phone, we talk to some people, and they're like, 150s. So, well, some 170s, you know. And he's like, Brian, man, if it's not 190, I have zero passion to go after it. Like, none. And I'm like, I'm not broken like that. Like, I don't have that kind of, but you can see it when you visit Ryan and you go into his garage and there's just 100 stud muleys on the wall. You can see why. For him, it just doesn't light the fire. For me, it does. For me, it does. On the Coues deer end, it's just like the fire is much, the caliber of buck in order to make me get excited is so much greater. But it's probably a function also of the availability of that animal.
I think so.
There is a lot at that caliber. I know if I don't find that one today, I can find another one tomorrow. I've done it before. Or with the mule deer, a lot of these units, it's tough to turn up something over 170 if you hunted 60 days. And so they're just not there, you know. In a lot of these over-the-counter, heavily hunted, public land type hunts that we're doing.
And you need opportunities. When you're going with a bow versus a rifle, I need stalks and plays. There's no guarantee that I can get it done on my first play or my first stalk. And part of the fun of bow hunting for me is that close encounter, that thrilling close encounter, trying to make those right moves. Like in a season, when I think back, like that epic hunting or that chance at a big buck to be able to match wits with them and try to kill them with a bow and arrow, like that for me is a ton of the enjoyment. So for me, it's no fun to sit back and be this picky trophy hunter that never goes for a stalk the entire season. Like, I want to see a buck that I'm happy with, that's a heavy 4-year-old, 5-year-old buck, and I want to make a play. I want to go see what happens. And hunting late-season muleys is tough. They're switched on. Like, yes, their guard's down, but you got to beat the does. Constantly moving, tough to keep up with, and then they're really good at catching movement in the, inside a bow range. So they're difficult. There's no guarantees. I know, I hunted a late-season hunt in Idaho last season, and just had an epic hunt and got into the action. No guys around. Great, heavy, older age class bucks with big bodies that I get excited about. But I had close calls. I don't think I killed a buck until my 4th or 5th play. And it was action some days, just running ragged in the deep snow. And that's the other thing, is you have snow that makes noise, that it's easy to get busted. So they're really tough to kill a bow. So a lot of hunting muleys is the challenge of it for me. But you're right, like different species, we set different goals. And I think you just got to figure out what's going to make you happy on that hunt, what's going to get you fired up, just like you're saying. And it's different for coos, like you were mentioned, because of the availability. Too. But and once you kill enough bears, that's like me. I don't want to kill another 5-foot boar bear. Like for me, I want to look for a giant bear to try to arrow because I've killed enough of them that, that's what gets me excited. But I think we're all individuals, and we all just have to think of what makes us happy. Why do we hunt? What are we looking to get out of it? And then go on these adventures and give it our all for whatever our goal species is.
Yeah. I do think that we had visions of Mexico being ridiculous, like just seeing deer everywhere. Because in theory, you're on a ranch and nobody hunts it. Well, that's true. It doesn't mean that it holds a lot of deer. It doesn't mean that the abundance of deer is there. Water is an issue, the altitude, the predators, and the density was really, really low, shockingly low. And I had visions of going there with a bow because I thought it'd be like Arizona. Let's just hunt it with a bow. But the only two giants we shot with our rifles, in a short window. And it's like it took all we had from morning till dark, eyes bleeding behind the glass to drum those up. And I'm like, this isn't the best bow hunt. There's better places for a bow hunt. A place where, I can go chase a coos or a mule deer in Arizona, get a stalk a day. I can be on a stalk a day. All right, this ain't happening. We couldn't even find the deer I would even want to go on a stalk on for 4 days. And then another 3 or 4 days before we find the one. And then they give you the slip, and it's like, it's a different challenge. And so there's areas, that I think are very conducive to bow hunting and exciting for bow hunting, and some that's less so. But the trick, though, is, I look at Pedro, go someplace, arrow something in I don't know, Pakistan or something, and they see one shooter, and he goes home empty right after 20 days or something. But then I see him pull it off every now and then. And it is the greatest Super Bowl win on the planet, right? He did the impossible.
Yeah.
And I think, so there's that to be said too. But it takes a whole nother level of commitment to go out and not be successful, especially multiple hunts in a row. It's tough, especially if you're trying to film and tell a story and bring an audience along. Bow hunting isn't the easiest. People ask Ranello, why don't you have more bow hunts? This is early on in media. I remember him saying, because it's hard to make movies out of bow hunts. It takes a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of times it doesn't pan out.
It ups the degree of difficulty, just like you were talking about your cameraman for that moose.
Yeah.
It's so tough to sneak 2 people into range. And, and you know, a lot of the bow hunting films, like you talk about a high degree of difficulty is having a cameraman on a bow hunt, but now hunting public land, do-it-yourself, high-pressure locations. Like, sometimes it does feel like Mission Impossible, but it's just like any of the hunting we do is when you commit to it and you continually put forth effort, eventually it comes together. Yeah, not on every hunt, but on a lot of hunts, able to arrow a nice buck.
I have 3 bow hunts this year.
Yeah.
And I have 1 rifle hunt for moose on the books.
How cool. What are the 3 bow hunts?
So I've got an archery elk. We got 11 days for that.
Nice.
I want more, but it interferes with the moose adventure. So
you're getting good at hunting bulls with your bow.
We could
spot and stock, right?
Yeah, we could try and do the moose with a bow. I'll bring my bow for that, and we'll see. If it's a kind of place where you see like 1 moose, then we'll probably, I don't know what we'll do. But so there is that option, but that we're kind of putting that on the books as a rifle hunt.
It's part of the thing that handicaps me too with bow hunting too, because I love bow hunting so much, getting close, like that's my passion.
Yep.
And but the problem is it's tough to hunt low population areas.
Right.
You know, I need chances, I need stalks, and so there's places that's really rugged country that I would love to hunt.
Yep.
But I'm just not going to get the chances or the opportunity, or don't have a legit chance to fill a tag in there.
Yep.
And so I have to choose an area that has a higher population. So sometimes it handicaps me being only 1 weapon, where you guys get to take advantage of all these different areas with a rifle and with a bow. And you got a bunch of bow hunts planned.
And I'm trying to plan it so that the viewer too gets to go on an adventure that they can relate to with us. You know, gets to see, okay, here's a new spot in Alaska, way different than where we were before. Different challenges, different place. Can we find those giants, and can we get them? There's the fishing and the hunt, the bird hunting, and all the other stuff that goes into it as well, combined as the season's different as well. We'll probably deal with a lot of mosquitoes and things like that, and we'll be rafting a lot, hiking a lot, bushwhacking. That's a whole adventure in and of itself, and so it's like as we've waited out, we're like, let's probably just focus on this with the rifle and get that adventure down. But then we come back. And I got a good elk tag this year.
Congratulations.
So I'm hoping that with a 10-day window, and we should that should be good. We should be able to get on some nice bulls with our bows.
You will.
So then after that, I'm planning to go to Alberta for mule deer with Pedro.
Oh, right on.
And then
that'll be awesome. They grow them so big up there too.
And the country we wanted was like breaks, like canyons, deep canyon. It looks like something out of like Mars.
When you get that topography, it bow hunts really well because you can get the stalks or get close to them.
They have more bucks and bigger bucks in certain areas. I've hunted there back in the day with rolling hills and grasslands and ag fields and all that. But you get into those breaks, you don't see very many deer, but when you do see one, they are killable.
You get a good chance to kill
there's
them.
Some big ones, huge ones.
Oh man!
So I'm like, they're just not. No one's going in there. So I'm looking forward to that. Pedro and I will talk crap the whole time, and he'll help film me, and I can film him, which is another thing with being mostly the cameraman for all of what Gritty does. It's hard to film a bow hunt, But when you bring someone like Pedro along, we can hit for each other. He goes on a stalk, I go on a stalk, and that way we can actually walk away with some pretty good film.
And you guys are both committed to the film.
Yeah.
That's another thing is I can get my buddies to go and we're going to share cameras, but we get up there and things change all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And, all of a sudden they just want to kill a buck. Yeah.
Lampers is bad.
Yeah.
He can't run it anyway, but even if he could, the hunt would just take over.
Every time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's your commitment to the films is why they turn out so good.
And then after that, I'm going to do late season in the snow archery mule deer, and I'm going to try to make that into 14 days or so of just dedication to try to
way
get
to
one.
give yourself the time. Isn't that the key? It's just having the time on these hunts.
I mean, I'm a resident of Utah, and they took some great bucks on the Wasatch, but also I'm just across the border from Idaho. I have all those options for later mule deer hunts, and when I look at it, and I look at, this goes back to your, what you want. I've been doing a lot of late season rifle hunts with Ryan for mule deer over the last 4 years. And I do them and I enjoy them, and the audience loves them. When we backpack into some places, we're in frozen lakes and rivers crossing,
You guys go
we're
for
going
it.
cool.
Yeah.
And it has its own set of challenges. And often, the only 2 bucks we that are shooters we take. That's it. We didn't even see anything else if we wanted to. The scarcity it's a challenge all in itself. And I like it. And for Ryan, it's an addiction. But for me, I keep going back to the bow. Like, for me, when I look at what gets me excited, it's one of these bow hunts I'm talking about. That, I'm like, I plan for it. I practice for it. I just keep obsessing over it. I think about it. It gets me excited. When we plan our late season rifle thing, I'm like, I don't feel the same drive. I do love it. Don't get me wrong, but I don't get the same emotion like I do like a Boone and Crockett Coos with my bow. Like, that does something special to me that some other things aren't doing. And I don't know all the whys for it. Maybe it's just the way that I am right now. And so I was saying, let's get you hooked up with someone who does want to do that hunt with you, that can film. And then I really want to go and just do the bow stuff that I want to get back to, that I've, taken a breath from, because that's what excites me. And now with Gritty, it's reached a critical scale where, you're always balancing a business and your passion, right? And I've made some concessions in terms of types of hunts because I know they're adventures. It's kind of silly, actually, to even bring it up, because it's like the difference between, let's say, you're splitting hairs. You're like, well, I could have shot a 200-inch buck, but I shot a 190. It's like they're both great. I'm talking about 2 awesome hunts, but wanting to do one more. They're both great. But I just find myself just being drawn to the archery late season, and I just want to, even elk in Utah, late season elk. I see these guys chasing elk in knee-deep snow after everyone is, into other stuff. They're done hunting, and the idea of killing a bull at that time of year with a bow. I've been up there. I helped some guys, Kendall Card over at Crispy and Black Ovis. I went up in there. I'm overlooking like Salt Lake, and yet that snow's up to my waist, and there are elk everywhere. And I'm thinking, with a bow, I mean, I can do this. And so that adventure is triggering in me that drive and excitement. And so I'm shifting in that way. And if I walk away with nothing, no animals, it's like I'll still share the films. I'm at that stage. I think the audience is going to let that go. Like, it's what it is. I'm going to do my best. But in the past, if I didn't kill something, I rarely made a film out of it because there was nothing epic to explain or to share or to show. But at this point, I think the audience just wants to go through life with us a little bit and just see what it's like. And for me, I'm going to try to do those over-the-counter type public land archery late season, the undoable, type hunts, and see if I can do it. And they can come along, and we'll see.
It's amazing, man. Yeah, so happy for you. You're going to go on some adventures.
So I gotta sharpen up the bow skills because, I haven't been as dialed. I'm there a little bit, but this year it's a lot of tacks and a lot of shoots and a lot more than I have been. When you don't do that many, you're prepping for the hunts you're doing. And so it's time, though.
Yeah, well, and we can all improve and get better, and it just gives us a better chance of making that shot when we get it. But yeah, that's amazing, man. And you're right, like, people want to see real hunts. It's why your hunts have done so good, is that you're able to capture real, authentic hunts. And to be able to go on these bow hunts, whether successful or not, it's going to make a film that guys can relate to.
Yeah.
You know, the close calls, or maybe not getting them, or doing 2-3 bow hunts and coming up with, 1-2 animals instead of 3 animals. Like, it's not 100%, and it's not given. It's such a challenge that the highs are going to be higher,
yeah,
too.
They are.
And you're following your passion and what you really want to, what you really love to do and what you really want to do. And it's just wild that we're all growing as people and trying to figure it out as we go. And so even as we get older, it's like reassessing what we're doing and why we're doing it, or what fires us up and what we really want to do, what we're passionate about, what's going to force us to put in the work or light a fire under us to really be better, be at our best, or to take on a bigger challenge, because you know what it's going to feel like if you can arrow one of those giant bucks and get close enough, or bulls, or whatever it is.
And I think, too, it's important, too, to realize that you're different. Like, it's very easy to compare yourself to everyone around you. And I think it's important to actually do that. I think it's important to compare yourself. It gives you a bar to try to rise up to. It gives you can go, I could do better. I see what this person's doing. I want to aspire to that, right? But one thing I've learned over time is the same things that, as I try to emulate people who are people I admire, like a Ryan Lampers, I also have come to the conclusion, too, that some of the things that make Ryan tick, they don't make me tick. Mm-hmm. If I had a choice between a giant coos deer with my bow or a giant mule deer, I would choose the coos. I don't know why. I just would. And Ryan is like, there's no way he's going to pass on a big muley over for a coos. And I don't know. I don't know why. And if I try to be like Ryan, I'm over here going, man, I would really like to be chasing this coos over here. The whole time I'm over here chasing this mule deer. And it's across the board with other things, too. I find myself going, well, what makes you tick? What makes you kind of excited? And your tastes and your interests and your styles are different from everyone around you, you know? And I'm just learning, like, all the time more about myself and what I like and what I value. And it's okay that maybe I like stuff that a lot of people aren't that interested in, If it comes to a coos deer film or a mule deer film, I'm going to get a lot more traffic out of a mule deer film. But what do I want to do? Mm-hmm. I want to try to kill one of those desert bucks, so with the bow. And I'll tell you this, I am doing an excellent job of turning Ryan Lampers into a coos deer whitetail loving fanatic. He's admitting that they live in the mountains where he wants them to be. They're like a mountain muley buck. They grow gnarly racks with kickers and mass and bladed guards and bladed tines, and they're heavy. And they're harder than hell to get. Mm-hmm. And they're unicorns out there. And all those things come together for him to be like, I'm addicted too. So he's coming along. He's becoming a coos deer. He's a whitetail lover. Mm-hmm. He calls them ag rats, but they're just not the same. He doesn't call a coos deer an ag rat. Mm-hmm. It's weird. It's like they're muleys in disguise.
Mm-hmm. They really are. They're their own species that have evolved to that desert habitat, and they're so switched on. They're so crafty. They're so tough to kill, and then they're so elusive. That gray coat blends in like perfectly with their habitat, and you have to sit behind that glass and just pick it apart.
That's the thing, man.
Yeah,
I have, being a student of people who have been really good at it, and Ryan is one of the best at finding animals I've ever been around. Man, I have gotten good, Brian. Not toot my own horn, but I have gotten good. I am now at an elite level of glassing. It took a long time to get there. Half of it is just realizing that the glass has to be on your eyes from the moment you wake up till the moment you go to bed. And that took some discipline that we went out there and we ran into people who were like, there were no coos deer. You know, we even had Hunter McWaters in our group hanging out, and he's like, there's no deer. And you're like, no, there's like 4 bucks and a doe on that hill. And he's looking. And it's like, when you get to that level, things like this coos deer hunt become a passion. Because I don't know how many deer I never saw that were right in front of me for years. Because I didn't have the discipline and the skill and the knowledge and the eyes to pick them up. And now I do. And it makes it so fun. You know, it makes it so fun.
You get good at hunting coos deer. It makes you better at stalking, makes you better at glassing. And then you're able to take those skills and you're able to transpose them to hunting muleys, to hunting elk. And it just equals more encounters. You know, you just pick them up.
I was mocking the mule deer. I was like, mule deer are easy to kill. You know, try to hunt one of those difficult coos deer, Ryan. I'm just giving him crap. And then when I went hard after a muley that I finally got after 16 days, I realized that they were just as hard, though, just in a different way. Different way, like so different. Like you're sneaking up on 30 does. Some of those big bucks at that time of year are just surrounded by that many eyes and ears. It's so hard, so hard. And so, to me, though, definitely they each have their stalking thing to teach you, you know. And I have respect for both.
I do too. Yeah, they're both extremely tough. But yeah, those coos deer, they'll sharpen your skills. They'll make you a better hunter.
I complain about. I've been in range of some really nice coos deer, and haven't done it yet. And Ryan has shot 2 giants. And
he does, one with his bow, one with his rifle, right?
2 with his rifle.
Oh, 2.
2 with his bow, I mean.
Oh, he's killed 2 big ones with his bow.
2 giants. Yep. He killed one the first year he went. Big, 105-inch coos or something, maybe bigger. Then he killed that 180-something inch mule deer. That was a 180 with a big broken tine.
Yeah, I remember that one.
And then the next year, he killed an even bigger coos, and he never posted a picture of it on Instagram or anywhere. I'm like, dude, what, are you ashamed? Like, you shot a giant, and it's on his wall at home, and it's bigger than the first one. And now he just shot an absolute tank in Mexico, and so he's got two bow coos and all Boone and Crockett, and 2 and then one Mexico coos.
It's amazing,
and they're just fun. I mean, it's just a fun hunt.
So fun.
I'm addicted to it.
I love hunting them during the rut too. You get the best season down there.
Yeah,
where those bucks really show themselves. You know?
Now you've been doing all of this super sweet axis stuff.
I fell in love with axis like any animal, like a mule deer, like hunting elk. I went to go hunt axis and fell in love with them.
That's something I need to do.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons I want to is just simply for the spot and stock practice, like the real deal. Like that'll just make me so much better for the mule deer thing when I go and do that, or the coos deer, the late season. So I want to do it.
Makes you good at still hunting, good at stalking. You have to kind of still hunt through places, and it's really tough to move slow for hours or for miles. Yeah. And the minute you let your guard down and you start just walking to get to the next little ridge or the next little drainage, pew, and all of a sudden they see you and they blow up, and it's like, oh man, I lost focus for just a few seconds. I lost focus. But still hunting, it's as much about glassing as hunting from vantage points, like really putting up your binos and glassing the thick timber.
You still hunt more than you do like a spot and stock? Or is it sort of the intro to the spot and stock?
So a lot of these axis deer live in places where there's not a master vantage point where you can make a calculated stalk on these axis, and so you have to just go hunt through country. And so you have to glass as you move through country. And I've hunted a lot of country like this. In fact, this year, I love to spot and stalk elk, and I usually hunt them in their feeding features when I can see them and I can move on them and read their mannerisms and make moves. And then once they put away in the timber for bed, I leave them alone and then hunt them in the evening when they come out. But I found myself this year that they were in the thicks, and I was hunting a high-pressure area where they weren't even in the meadows at first light. I was hearing bugles and having to echolocate and then following the herd on noises and knowing when to slow down. And I ended up still hunting this timber that I just found epic hunting and no hunters in there, and then ended up arrowing a great bull in there. But it took more of that still hunting ability in there, just like hunting through country and looking as you go. And so
that's how I hunted blacktail in Oregon, where I grew up. It was just still hunting, especially if it would rain, because the rain doesn't put those deer to bed. They're out. They'd be in bed all the time if that were the case. And that little bit of rain, and you still hunt. But what I learned was I spent more time standing still than I ever did moving when I still hunt, and got pretty good at that. And
takes patience, doesn't it?
Yeah, and a little bit of glass. You're like combing for everything, and you're just standing there for a long time. To go 50 yards, my goal is to really, take forever to do it. And you get yourself into some pretty special circumstances when that happens. It's almost like tree stand hunting in a way. Because in a tree stand, you sit there and you just be still and you wait. I look at it as like you take a step and then you're standing for a long time. Then you're taking your step and you're standing for a long time. And I don't think people realize how long that time should be. And in Oregon, where I learned that too, was the animals, like the birds and the forest makes a sound. When it's a dense rainforest type place, it makes a sound. And when you walk into it, the sound stops. The chipmunks, the birds, like everything kind of, you have a bubble around you as a human as you walk through where things stop. And you wouldn't even, if you're not really paying attention, you don't notice it. And you walk, let's say, 200 yards into the spot, you get up in a tree stand and you sit down 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour. You can hear the forest coming back out as you just sit like a statue. But you brought with you a bubble of silence that you pushed onto the space. And then as you sit there, it starts to come alive. And those deer, it's like they know something's there that shouldn't be because the forest sounds different. And if you're not really paying attention to that, you wouldn't even know that. You think you're silent. You think you didn't do anything. But there is I could always tell, like, once the forest came back, now a buck might walk by. But when I first got there, there's no buck coming in because they can tell something has made everything be quiet. So when I still hunted, I realized it was similar. Like, you have to not just trick the deer that are out there, but you have to trick the squirrel and the bird and the this and the that. You got to move in a way that, and slowly enough that the whole place still keeps doing its thing. You didn't like move in to such a degree or move that it altered the behavior of just the little animals that normally do their thing. And it's cool. I love it.
That's good insight. Yeah, you're exactly right. As humans, we do, when we walk into a place, we do affect it in there. And still hunting, a lot of times, like hunting these axis deer, we're still hunting, and sometimes I can see 400 yards, sometimes I can see 25 yards.
Yeah.
And really, when you're still hunting an elk, you can't still hunt like there's an animal every 50 yards or you never get anywhere. Like the elk are moving through this giant landscape. Yeah. And so when you're still hunting, and you're using echolocation, hearing bugles, and so you hear him and you go, oh, he's over the ridge. Okay, now I need to move faster, or I need to move with a good pace, and I need to catch him. After I get to the top of this ridge, then I'm going to slow down again as I creep over the top, and then I'm going to stop and hold still and glass, and then I might hear him again further and go, okay, I can move again. And so it's all about knowing how quick to move, when to slow down, and it's really relying upon these instincts. And then the whole game is to see them before they see you. And even these axis deer still hunting, a lot of times when you run into one, you don't have a shot. Now the stalk just begins, and now you may have to close the distance 100 yards or 150 yards, and you're trying to take tabs. And so when you spot and stalk, it's a beautiful thing because you're able to observe from far away and not make your human imprint in there at all. You're able to see him and observe him and then make this calculated plan where you know he's at and stalk to that position. That's why it's highly effective. But there's places where animals get where you can't do that. Now animals are getting crafty where they're in areas that guys can't glass from roads, that guys can't glass from vantage points. They might find thicker cover, like the elk I was hunting. They were coming down to meadow grass and feeding, like I believe and know, but they were coming down at night. And the moment first light was there, they were already in the trees moving up towards their bedding feature. And so I had to adapt my tactics a little bit and use still hunting to get into them. And you don't get everyone, but you do get in close to a lot of them if you move slow and intentional and glass in front. It's your blacktail tactics.
Yeah. And for certain areas, like when you're in a dense forest, there's no spot and stock. It is a still hunt. And then you might see one. One of my best bucks, I spotted, just doing that. It was raining just a little bit, and I just walked, stood still a lot. And I saw a buck stand up, eat some blackberries, and then lay back down. And there was a tree that had fallen diagonal toward the buck. It was like 100-foot tall. On Oregon, you get some of those just ridiculously long trees. Just to get to the buck, you'd have to bushwhack. Really, it's dense. But the fallen log went diagonal toward the tree, toward it, and I got on the log, and when the buck wasn't looking, I walked it like a tightrope, and you could be super quiet on the log. You're above the brush, And then it put me within 40 yards of the buck. And then I just had crept along the log, and when he wasn't, I just moved. Got to 40 yards, drew my bow back. He stood back up again. He's eating the bushes, and smoked him. And that was still hunting till I could find one, and then it was spot and stock basically. And it just happened to be the perfect scenario, Then I'm hoping like that's the sort of thing that happens when I get to places like Alberta, where it's like, you're doing your thing, and all of a sudden there's just one on a silver platter, just like the slope, the bedding spot, like all of that stuff just comes together. And that's where bow hunting really does excite me.
Yeah. I was hunting a spot for muleys. Serious epic in there, and it was those folds and canyons and coulees. But it was a place where it was such a tight, rugged country that you just couldn't see it all from a vantage point. Now, I use vantage points, but to get to the vantage point, I've got to hike there first.
Yeah.
And if I just hike to that vantage point, I'd blow up a buck that I didn't see that now I messed up an opportunity at. And so, I found myself where I was using this combination of hunting through this. Now, you can glass, but you're glassing usually about like 100 to 500 yards, and beyond that, you can't see till you get to that end of that 500 yards, and then you can see another 500 yards. And so I really had to sharpen up my game on these muleys because they'd catch me, and then I wouldn't get an opportunity. So I had to be really good because there was so much country to glass that I'd have to use like this combination of still hunting, moving through country, and glassing like a mobile vantage point as I went, catch these bucks before they catch me. And there were some great bucks in there, stirred up some great opportunities. But there was a couple I messed up on. Like one I can remember where we hiked up, and then there's this ridge line that goes out to this master vantage point, and you can just pick everything apart around you, 360 degrees, a great muley habitat, and I know there's bucks in there. And so I'm walking out to this point, and instead of like hiding down off the ridgeline and really sneaking to the point, I'm just kind of walking to it, get to the point, and then I'm going to start glassing. I sit down on that point, and I start glassing. All of a sudden, I pick up a buck. He's 500 yards away, and he's staring right at me.
No way.
He had me pegged. And eventually, he bounded off. I never got a chance at him, and he busted me because I got lazy and not hiding off the ridgeline, not sneaking up to my vantage point. And, I would have had to crawl and sneak over the ridgeline. All things I should do.
Should have done.
Yeah, but I didn't, and I lost that opportunity on that buck. But, it's wild, some of the different skill sets that go into killing these animals dependent upon the habitat that you're hunting.
Yeah, I can relate to that, too, because when you are trying to get in close, being like I was with Sloan Brown one time. I don't know if you've ever met Sloan, but he worked for Yeti for a while.
Yes, I do know. Yep.
So Sloan, and we were at his house, and one of the in Texas hunting some mule deer at a family ranch. It was fun, and we were after this buck, and it had bounced into this thicket and bedded down, and it seemed like there was nothing around it, no exit, like it's in that thicket. And we snuck up on that thicket for like 4 or 5 hours painstakingly to bow range, like tight. buck was never there. Somewhere we don't know when, but somehow the buck got into what we thought was a spot you could never get to. I remember Sloan being like, what if he's not there? I'm like, well, it wouldn't matter. You have to stalk it as if, like, don't. He's like, well, if it's not there, well, let's just walk up and see. And I'm like, and then if he is there, you blew it. Mm-hmm. Like, you have to go on faith a little bit. You have to go on some of this stuff where you're like as you come up over that crest to look to see if that buck, like, you kind of have to assume that you're going to get pinned like that. And so you have to just be disciplined. I said this to you a while ago. I've snuck up on some epic, brush piles and awesome spots where it took me hours to get there, only to find out that the deer wasn't actually there that I thought was there. Mm-hmm. And but more often than not, that has actually turned out to be a dead deer. But I have snuck up on stuff that I took all day to get to, and I was probably sneaking up on something that wasn't there.
Yep. It's part of the game, but you're spot on in your theory of you have to hunt like that buck's there no matter what, and have this idea in your head that I'm not going to screw this up. I'm going to sneak to this spot and do everything in my power. And I've sat over timber patches for 4 hours, 5 hours sitting still for a buck to walk out that never walks out. But just like you said, more times than not, that buck's there. Yep. It's your mind playing tricks on you. Hurry up, get to the edge. Yep. Hurry up, see if he's there. That buck isn't there anymore when you're sitting hours above a spot.
For me.
Yeah, and then you'll get up and you'll get to move and you'll bust that buck out of there, and he was the whole time. And so you have to always stalk and hunt like that. Buck's in there. Believe he's there. And more times than not, he's there. Yeah. He'll show up.
Same with bears. We have a lot of bear hunting fans, They'll sneak up to a ridge. They'll get into the cut. They'll last saw the bear go into the bushes, and they'll look and they'll look and they'll look, and they're like, he's gone. He's gone. Only to know that bear is there. He just was laying down somewhere. Mm-hmm. And it looks like you can see the whole thing, but you can't.
Nope.
And we have learned over time as we pack up, climb to this ridge, and we look back, and the bear was where it was the whole time, and we had given up on it and gone to another spot, and it's like, no. So now we used to think, our mind, like you said, mind playing trick on us, we used to think that, oh, he saw us, heard us, something happened, he got out of there. Now we almost never think that. Now Ryan and I are the opposite. We're like, he's here, we just don't see him. And we kill more now. Mm-hmm. Because it's so, I mean, we've been on a spot where we were looking for a bear in a pocket, and he's gone. And we wake up the next day, and we look that day, and he's gone. And then we go 2 miles over here, and Ryan looks back, and that sucker is standing right where we last left him before. He's there somewhere. We just didn't see him.
Yeah.
And giant. And then we hike all the way back down, Brian, because that's what we do, and then kill him. But so now, I just am like, wait a minute. Before I panic and think that bull slipped away, it's like, no, I think he's actually still here, and I'm just panicking a little bit. Just be patient and see. And if hunting teaches us anything, successful hunting, it's patience.
Oh, man, isn't it? You got to give yourself a chance. You have to put effort out there, but patience. It's the longer I hunt, the more patient I get, and the better it serves me, the more animals I harvest. Patience is a virtue, and us humans, we're just not built with a lot of patience. It's like a developed skill.
Yeah.
We have to really work at it, and it's difficult. It's difficult to sit still. It's difficult to wait. It's difficult to not have action, but a lot of times that's the right move.
Yeah, it's that delayed gratification. It's so difficult. You're like saying, oh, okay, I'm gonna wait all day long right here, or I could throw a rock over there and try to get that deer to stand up and shoot it. Now, there's times I think where that's appropriate, but 99% of the time, I just look at a guy doing that and I'm like, you don't have patience. Mm-hmm. Just let him stand up on his own. He's gonna do it. Mm-hmm. The wind's all day good. But I can say that because I did that other thing and it didn't work out. Mm-hmm. I learned the lesson. So.
Yep, I think we all have. We just learn from our mistakes and we try things out, but it is a lack of patience. And usually the right move is to sit and wait, let that thing get up and walk out, not know you're anywhere in the country, shoot at a relaxed deer, get a good broadside angle. Yeah. That's usually the answer, at least for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Brian, we got to wrap it up, but where do people find Brian Barney's content? Where do they learn from you?
Yeah, Eastman'S Elevated. That's the podcast. They can listen there. Some shows on Eastman'S Hunting TV on YouTube and things, and social media, Brian Barney, and that's it.
Okay. We'll throw some links, folks, into the description field of this podcast video. So if you want to go there, and we'll put Brian's links in there, click in there, and you can go straight there, or just go direct. But Brian has a wealth of archery killing experience, knowledge. You deliver a great podcast. I really appreciate it. Solid stuff. Folks, if you haven't checked it out, make sure you do, because it's among the best. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Yep, thank you.
Stay gritty.